Hello, everyone. Heather Holmes here with KTV Fox 2 News in the San Francisco Bay Area. And joining me this afternoon is Ganesh Padabaraman. He is the CEO of NextNav. And you're going to be telling us about the geolocation services that you believe may be able to help with COVID-19. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, Heather. Yes.
Services.
Sure. Essentially, we have a platform called the Metropolitan Beacon Service that allows to precisely geolocate people and objects in three-dimensional space. So not just horizontally, but precisely vertically, and which floor of a building you might be in. We have a network that we deploy around cities to enable this capability. And in the San Francisco market, we are making this available to all applications that universities, public safety, health officials are creating to allow for more contact tracing to deal with the coronavirus pandemic. What we believe our technology essentially allows to happen is if contact tracing is one of the pillars of dealing with this pandemic, then we can essentially allow for more precise targeted geolocation and geofencing of areas that users or people who might be infected might be visiting, and allow you to create more secure zones which are much more targeted. So think of a market like San Francisco and New York, where we have multi-story structures. And if a person infected with the COVID virus enters the building, do you quarantine the entire building? Or if you could more precisely target the specific floors and they may be at, could you have a better way to deal with and open up more of the community without sort of restricting the entire building? And that's what the Metropolitan Beacon system allows us to do.
So before this system, tell me what would happen. I would go into a building, and then what would happen with someone trying to find my location?
So before this system was in place, today what we do is when we walk into a building, our location is known horizontally. So you could say that they were in this particular multi-story structure or in this particular Walmart, but you couldn't specify what altitude or floor they're at. And what that would essentially mean is everybody in the building may have to be quarantined, for instance. Whereas with this technology, you could then be more targeted and say, okay, it is these elevators or this particular floor of a building or floors that the person was at, and you could seal off those areas and keep the rest of the building maybe more functional and operational.
So tell me who,
so that's really,
I apologize, I didn't mean to interrupt, but tell me who you are now allowing to use this technology.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure, tell me who you are now allowing to use this technology.
Yeah, so it's fundamentally, we're essentially enabling the universities and research facilities and public health officials who are building COVID contact tracing applications, and they can now incorporate our software development kit into their application, and in markets like San Francisco and Atlanta, essentially get that 3D geolocation capability. We expect to expand that further as our footprint in the country expands over the rest of the year.
And prior to COVID-19, who was using the technology and for what reason?
So essentially, this technology allows for better 3D geolocation, right? Determining the altitude of the user. And this is very useful in public safety applications where you need situational awareness for first responders at an incident. For 911 callers, starting next 2021, their altitude also needs to be determined precisely for where the user 911 caller is. And commercial applications. Think of your your Instacart delivery guy knowing exactly where he is in a multi-story structure for safety and security purposes. So all those applications are something that we are enabling this capability. We just saw this as an opportunity to make this available sooner commercially for them to for the public safety, public health officials to use it more effectively.
And are any public health officials taking you up on it? Are they planning to utilize the technology?
We are in discussions with certain universities in the Bay Area today and in Atlanta. They are evaluating it, and they will, I think, make a determination in the coming weeks.
Okay, and this is something that you're offering for free?
That's correct.
Tell me why you felt like it was important to do this.
I think it's really to show our, do our bit to fight this issue, which is, I think, a global issue that I don't think there's any one single solution or way to deal with it. I think we're all in this fight against this virus, and we saw this as an opportunity to do our part and contribute to the greater good as quickly as we could.
Obviously, this technology works off of a cell phone. As a user, do I need to opt in, or how might that work?
Yes, I mean, typically these are all applications that users need to, so we don't make the applications, we partner with the universities to, or health officials to make it. Our understanding is typically all these applications are opt-in, where the user allows for not just their location, but also their health records or other health information be made available to the university and public health officials who are essentially using it for contact tracing.
Yeah, you talked about how this could benefit public health officials, but how much of a game changer do you think this could be when we're talking about contact tracing and more states and things looking to ease those restrictions and open up their economies?
I think it's a fundamental change in the paradigm, because till today we could only do this at a very coarse level across cities. So think of big urban markets, like I said, New York, San Francisco. We would have had to essentially not just restrict entire buildings or create geofences around them. Our technology essentially allows this to be much more targeted. And so when we think about opening up the society in a gradual manner and allowing social movement, I think we can be more pragmatic about it rather than having a big approach that clamps down on personal freedom.
And what about those who might be concerned about their personal information?
Yeah, so privacy is a big part of the platforms that we've developed. Like I said, we are not the application provider, so we have no user level information that we get as part of this. We are an enabling technology, so we actually have no visibility into that information. But the underlying platform that we have also is entirely privacy centric, and we've made it very clear those applications that have opt-in capabilities will be, will get access to this platform.
What are the biggest barriers, do you think, to expanding this? I mean, you mentioned, San Francisco, New York, Atlanta. What are the biggest barriers in making this available across the country and really allowing officials to kind of hone in on that contact tracing?
I would say one is obviously the network. We do deploy a network around the cities, which is essentially weather stations. Think of them as weather stations around the city, which we are rolling out. And probably the second part is the ability for application providers in those communities to take advantage of it. And finally, to get a truly seamless experience, this could be baked into some of the operating systems of the devices and for this purpose, and that would make it a completely seamless experience to what's out there.
You mentioned, kind of similar to a weather station. I mean, how many of these exist right now, and in what cities?
Right now, San Francisco and Atlanta are the two cities that we have the network deployed, and it's been in operation for several years. We expect to roll out the top 100 markets later this year in the continental United States.
And let's say that the public health officials here in the Bay Area and those in Atlanta take you up on your offer and decide to use this technology. Just again, the importance of it and how you believe it could in fact make a difference in fighting COVID-19.
I think, as we said, it's a much, what we enable is 3D, I would say 3D contact tracing. And so this allows it to be a much more targeted approach to contact tracing, which right now a lot of dialogue and discussion is on a peer-to-peer way to determine usability. But in this pandemic, we have to recognize that it's not just the users, but it's also where they have been. That becomes important, knowing that the person has been in the Walmart or the Target, and which portions of it or which portions of the mall becomes very critical. And so we can enable that capability and allow the communities to be much more targeted and precise in how they create the appropriate policy around safety and security.
Yeah, because I think if an official were to ask me, okay, name all of the people that you've been in contact with, the places that you've been, I don't know that I would be able to remember, but having a service like this would be able to essentially pinpoint my whereabouts for a certain amount of time, correct?
That's right. And I think that's fundamental to it. We're not reliant on memory. And I think as long as the technology has the appropriate controls to ensure the privacy of the user is respected and anonymized, then we could determine not just the proximity of where the user has been, but you could also determine the locations they were at without giving up the identity of the user and have a much more effective public policy.
Final question, when you were sort of creating this technology, did you ever imagine that it would be so useful in something like this, a worldwide pandemic?
No, I mean, this certainly was not something we had envisioned, obviously, several years ago. I mean, we recognized the importance of having 3D geolocation capabilities, but that the fact that it could be used for something of this nature was something truly a game changer for us. We thought this could be a great tool in the greater good to solve this public health crisis.
All right, well, we appreciate you taking the time. Ganesh Pattabiraman, thank you so much, CEO of NextNav. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. All right.